on Off the Ball.
With William Hill, you can boost your winnings on every game with new Bet Builder Extra. Only with William Hill. Download the app today. 18 plus gamblingcare.ie.
This is News Talk.
All right. It's Who You Got with William Hill, the football prediction show where we predict the football results for the weekend. You asked me who I got. I've got two stalwarts of Off the Ball with me right here. It's Shane Hannon from Monaghan and Kathleen McNamee from Sligo, lads. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Thanks.
We've got some cracking games this week. But most importantly, let's start with last week and how we got on. Do we have the scoreboards there for last week? Now, it says there that Mick got 4 points, Phil got 4, and Will got 4.
Decent week.
And then we got Colm with 3, which isn't bad. Kathleen, Nathan, and Shane also have 3. And coming in at the rear, Owen, Ger, and John.
It's disappointing that we all got the same score, I won't lie. I like it when you're on a panel and there's a bit of, bit of back and forward.
Yeah.
I think it's happened several times this year where I've been in off the post or off the post and wide with several of my predictions.
But sure, that's the same for everyone.
I think it's a more unpredictable season this year than last campaign.
Maybe, yeah.
And it's down to all the injuries that teams are getting. Like, some teams are unrecognisable out there. Look at Manchester United, look at Tottenham Hotspur.
It's not just down to the injuries. So.
Oh, it is, yeah, everything's down to the injuries. Absolutely
Somewhere
everything.
Producer Mick is screaming at his radio being like, it's not about the injuries.
When you have a certain number of players out, eventually, at some point, there is a breaking point, and some teams have reached that. And the unpredictability reigns to the point where, I don't know about you two, but I'm looking at the fixtures a lot more closely before I enter my digits between them. This season than last season.
Right.
Last season felt very natural.
It's not going very well for you.
Exactly, yeah. You're telling me the lesson is to think less.
Think less.
Yeah.
Not that I can talk.
Act impulsively.
I don't know exactly where I am in the overall standings, but
We'll
probably
get to that in a second.
But yeah, I think it's because when you have a season like the likes of Forest doing so well, teams that you don't expect to be quite so high in the table, you see how many points they're taking off some of the so-called bigger teams. It has been quite tough to call, and the actual correct scorelines have been really, really difficult because you're getting games where they're 4-2, 4-3, and none of us are ever really. We always seem to sit on the 2-1 fence or the 1-2 fence. There's a lot of draws predicted, so it's a tough thing to win who you got because we all tend to go along similar enough lines.
We might get the table up there, Jojo, if you have it handy. But Kathleen, would you go in line with that? That is a tougher season to predict than last campaign?
Oh yeah, I think I've said this most of the time that I've been on Who You Got, that it definitely is a tougher season to predict, but I don't think it's just down to injuries. Like
it is, yeah, it definitely is, because look at that table.
Look
at the absolute state of
the
that.
rock bottom of that table.
It's weird. This is like an eye test where I can read less the further it goes
you know
down.
what I hate about this table
The
is
numbers
that, like, if
smaller.
my name was replaced with Nathan, because we're on the exact same points, I would feel a lot better about myself.
Yeah, fair.
Why is everyone out to get Nathan all the time? Jar said the same last week, that as long as he beats Nathan, he's happy out.
No, it's not even about, it's literally just about the placement in that, like, then I would feel I'm mid-table, whereas that makes me feel like I'm bottom of the table.
All right,
I'm
Wilhelm
fourth from
O'Callaghan
bottom
there.
from anyone listening, because...
Yeah, we'll go through it here for the listeners out there, of which there are plenty. Wilhelm O'Callaghan is top at 66 points. Trent Alexander-Arnold there out in front. Mick is coming up second, 59. Then you got Owen in third at 56. Let's say 54 after that. Is it?
Yeah,
John?
yeah.
And then Nathan 53. Gets very tight in the middle there. Shane, yourself and Nathan the same points.
And Kathleen.
So what's the difference there? Because Nathan's predicted more results correctly. Exact
I
scores,
think it's
is it?
literally just, I don't think we even go into it in that depth. I think it's just...
Because I've got more exact scores than Nathan or Kathleen, but I mean, that's according to that table. So I don't know. I don't know the logic behind it. Then Kathleen 53, Phil 51, Ger 49.
Is it? No, it's not. I was going to say it's alphabetical. But...
Colm 45. You're a long way from safety there.
Yeah, don't mind that. That's just kind of the rest, I would say. The last three, don't mind that. It's just filling it out. But there's plenty of games left to play, plenty of points to accumulate. And on that note, we'll start with our first game for this weekend. It's a cracker, lads. Manchester City against Liverpool. Let's see what we all have here. I went for a 1-3 Liverpool, but it's actually statistically unproven, really, because Liverpool haven't won at the Etihad in the league since November 2015.
Wow.
Jurgen Klopp just took over.
Well, I also went for a 1-3 Liverpool, and if I'd known that stat in advance, Colm, I might not have gone for that.
At our charity bet, you possibly would have changed things a little bit.
Well, we'll get to William Hill's Lee Phelps in just a moment here, but for clarity here, what we're all going for, it's largely Liverpool. We have John saying a draw, Mick a draw, and Phil also a stalemate. Ger Gilroy out on his own once again for a 3-1 home victory for Manchester City.
Seems massive for what
Yeah.
the position that City are in at the moment. I know like Liverpool had that result during the week that maybe didn't put them in great stead, but like they're significantly better than City this season.
I've said this before in the show, but Jer sometimes does the Formula 1 move where he'll take just use the different tyres to his competitor. He just goes with the other result just to try and make up some points, but it can backfire. Liverpool win this game, all of a sudden he's found himself clambering further behind. So it's a risky move. I can't see. You look at City's performance during the week against Madrid.
Yeah.
Tough to see them getting a win. However, you look at the strength of their bench and the players that maybe were quote unquote rested for much of the game midweek. Haaland among them, De Bruyne obviously as well. They'll come into the game fresh. They're at home. Not that it has much of an impact when these two teams are so close together geographically. But still, I think this game is one that we'll have goals. It's one of those. It's not going to be one of those 1-0 games between the two. You'd imagine.
We said that about Spurs United.
We did.
Yeah. And we'll take that up at Lee Phelps in just a second.
Yeah, we've been known to get things wrong, but I think Liverpool, like a couple of back-to-back away draws against Villa, they were actually pretty good. They could have nicked that game in the end as well. But I just fancy Liverpool to have too much.
I'm going for Liverpool as well, but it's been 9.5 years since they won the Etihad. But also Manchester City are improved in the league. Look what they did to Newcastle United last weekend. They demolished them 4-0. Yeah. Omar Mamouche hat-trick. Real Madrid was slightly different. The man, the myth, the legend, Lee Phelps is on the line. Lee,
how you doing? You okay?
I'll have to start with last week if you don't mind. 16-5 score draw between Spurs and Manchester United. I asked you, Lee Phelps, live on there, how likely was Tottenham Hotspur 0, Manchester United 0, and we were only a goal away from it in the end.
I know, yeah, but having said that, I mean, the 1-1 should have happened, shouldn't it? I mean, the finishing was poor. I was like, I honestly, when Tottenham went 1 up, I thought, this is the 1-1 now is odds on, you know, in play in the game. So I thought we were slightly unlucky not to get away with a score draw. But yeah, that's football. Exactly what you guys have been saying. It's like the hardest thing, isn't it, to predict these results? And it's interesting you say about this season being difficult. Yeah, I mean, I think it has been a difficult one to predict because. I mean, I don't know if it's the injuries. I don't know if it's the kind of the more financial fair play in inverted commas, or you know, because a lot of and it's interesting because this Saturday, I think the fixture list is kind of indicative of what you guys are talking about. You've got a load of teams there who you can put an ACCA together where the prices aren't really short. So let's say you've got Arsenal, Liverpool, or playing at home. Generally City playing at home against a weaker team. You know, it's hard to put an ACCA together that's got any sort of price. But, you know, this weekend on Saturday, you've got Everton at home to Manchester United. They're 8-5. Everton probably win that game. All right, Arsenal are very short against West Ham. Bournemouth, 8-13 against Wolves. Bournemouth are better than Wolves, but they should be a shorter price than 8-13 at home. You've got Fulham at home to Palace, who are odds against, but again, you wouldn't be surprised if Fulham beat Palace at home. Got a good record against them. Brighton are only 4-7 at Southampton, so I know there's a lot of odds in there, but what I'm trying to say is the more informed teams like your Brightons, your Bournemouths, your Fulhams, they're not really short prices, so it does actually give you quite an angle in, rather than just trying to predict the big teams winning all the time, because they just don't do that anymore, do they? Liverpool and Arsenal apart, you know, the rest of them are so inconsistent.
We've gone for Liverpool to win, both teams to score here in our charity bet with William Hill. I mentioned one statistic there, Lee, that it's been nearly a decade since that occurred, but also Liverpool have only won 2 of their last 8 away Premier League games, but this is a good bet to do.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, you have to ask the question whether this is actually the changing of the guard, because given that stat that you've just said, if Liverpool do go there and win, they're clearly the best team in the division. You know, look at the obviously the points they've amassed, the goal difference is better. You know, won more games than Arsenal, lost fewer games than Arsenal, etc., etc. So this could well be the changing of the guard. But you know, I thought City were really impressive. You know, last weekend against Newcastle. It's 5-2 Liverpool to win and both teams to score, which I think is a very fair price. Interestingly enough, we've asked the traders. City are outsiders in this game, and this is they can't find another example going back, to before pre-COVID in the Pep era, I guess, when City haven't been favourites at home. You know, so this is it. This is like really, this is the outsiders at home against a team. And even when they played Liverpool, when Liverpool won the title that season at home, they still weren't, you know, the outsiders in the match. So yeah, I think this is the one. Liverpool, they're not wobbling, are they? But there's just been some little kind of signs of maybe weariness. if they win this, I think the title's pretty much done and dusted. I've put a bet builder together on this one because I think it is made for a bet builder. Because I think it will be open. I think we will have goals. I know what we said last week. I've gone for Nico Gonzalez to be carded. Omar Mamouche to have at least one shot on target. The same for Dominic Szoboszlai, and over 9.5 corners. The reasons for those are, you look at Nico's tackle stats at City already and at Porto. You know, he's averaging over 2 a game. He's yet to get his first Premier League yellow card. He's already got 12 this season, 11 for Porto and 1 in the Champions League the other night. So just because he hasn't had one yet in the Premier League, but it's on the way, I think. Mamouche, obviously the hat-trick was fantastic. I've been really impressed with him, just full stop, since he came to City. He had a couple of shots on goal in the Champions League in the week. So I'm going to go for him to have at least one shot on target. Same for Szoboszlai, 16 shots on target in the Premier League so far this season, 7 in his last 7, hit the target twice in the reverse fixture as well against City. And I won't bore you with all the corner stats, but every one of them, whether it's head-to-heads or their averages between the two, City and Liverpool, all point to being 10 or more corners in this game. I think it'll be open. So that's around 11 to 1. You can use your 25% bet builder winnings boost and impact sub on that. For the bet builder impact, for the winnings boost, you need to have a 3 to 1 or more. 3 or more picks, and it's a €20 max stake on that. But I think it'll be a good game. I wouldn't be surprised a 2-2, to be honest. But I'm going to edge with you guys and go with that 5-2. You know, Liverpool to win and both teams to score. It sounds good.
Yeah, my prediction aligns with your call as well. Kathleen, last week the two of us and Ger made an executive decision with Lee to change it. Any complaints this time around, Shane? Kathleen, happy with this?
I'm happy with it. I think Lee's points make sense, and I do expect goals in this one. Liverpool are certainly the better team in the league. The Haaland knee injury, you'd imagine he won't be risked. And Marmouche, like if he shows the form he showed against Newcastle, it'll obviously be a tough afternoon for Liverpool. But you look at the form Mo Salah's in, Kvaratskhelia is probably going to come up against him, and he's going to have a lot to handle there. I just feel like it's kind of one of those games. You know, towards the end of February, you're going to look back on this game at the end of the season and say this was one of the moments that Liverpool maybe turned the afterburners on, and I do expect Liverpool to win.
For the William Hill customers out there, Lee, any outrageous bets? Remember last week I asked you a 4-all draw between Spurs and Manchester United seemed like a kind of responsible prediction. I think it was 99-0 to 1. Anything else to look out for this weekend?
You know, we've got the freemium weekends. Every weekend in February is the opportunity to get free bets and spins online. If you log in and opt in, on Saturday it's a free ACCA bet. So I really like Arsenal to win, Bournemouth to win, Fulham and Brighton. I mean, you could add in Everton and Villa in there, but those 4 come out at around 6 to 1, which I like. And I think even going down into the Championship and below, there are a few really interesting bets. I haven't picked out any absolutely outrageous ones, but like I say, I just think there's a lot of decent prices where you can put an ACCA together. I mean, if you went Everton, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Fulham, Brighton and Villa, none of those are absolutely outrageous predictions, by the way. That comes to 45 to 1. On its own. So, you know, I think there's, whether you use all those I've just selected, all 6 of those or not, I think there's definitely some well worth looking at the ACCAs this weekend and putting 2 or 3 in.
Is it worth putting anything on a golden assist by Mohamed Salah? He's up to 15 Premier League assists this season. The record's 20 by Thierry Henry and Kevin De Bruyne. Is it worth your while? Yeah,
I mean, you probably noticed I didn't put Salah in my bet builder, and that's because the prices are so short that it doesn't. Obviously, everything adds up and makes it bigger and bigger. By all means, stick them in. But you know, I actually started off with Salah to score, Salah to assist. But you know, like I say, it's so short that you're not really getting an awful lot for your money. Just with that in a minute with him. Yeah. Just the way it is, you know, you get a bit more for him away from home. That's why I went with, you know, shots on target for the likes of Szoboszlai, because looking elsewhere from a betting point of view, who else is going to benefit from, you know, there's the concentration on Salah, if you like. I think I've said before, there's one better that I absolutely love on the bet builder. That's a player to score, to assist, and to be carded. You know, and that generally that does give you a nice price. Generally, he doesn't get yellow carded very often though, Salah. But by all means, stick that in your bet builder. I wouldn't put anyone off that at all. And like I've just put 4 picks in that bet builder. You can have up to 8, so you can just keep, you know, you can put more and more in there. So yeah, go with mine, pick one yourselves, just go around Salah, and you know, and yeah, I'm sure you'll find a way. Salah's fantastic, great record against City as well, of course. So, it's not like he's not a flat track bully, is he, Salah? He scores against the big teams as well. So, yeah, I think if you're involving him in your bet, you won't be too far off.
All right, we'll lock that in. So Liverpool to beat Manchester City at the Etihad. Both teams to score. Lee Phelps of William Hill, a living legend. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Once Liverpool get this game out of the way, lads, 7 of their remaining 11 Premier League games this season are at Anfield. They're a shoo-in to win the league, Kathleen.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, rarely did I think I would ever see the day where I'm actually wanting a Man City win, just to put a bit of interest, and also from an Arsenal perspective as well, to give them some sort of chance. But I mean, Arne Slot's come in, had an incredible season. Yeah, the team was pretty well set up when he came in, and he's been able to do what Arteta hasn't, and that's take advantage of a floundering City team. It's weird. It's like, I kind of feel like with Liverpool this season, it's a bit like City in previous seasons, where we're kind of busy talking about everyone else and maybe not giving them their dues as much as they deserve for what they've done. Salah, once in a generation sort of player. The fact that there was ever a question mark in Liverpool heads about whether they should pay him what he wants to be paid and keep him on board is kind of mad to me. I think, you look at any of those top teams and you give your right arm to have a player like Salah on your books. He's just been sensational this season, and I think you've very much seen with everything that's going on around his contract and has gone on around his contract that he just wants to do it for the fans. He wants to do it. Well, no, he don't, because the club hasn't treated him very well. He could easily turn around and just be like, I'm annoyed, I'm going to throw a strop and not turn up on the pitch. But
I mean, they're paying him handsomely as it is. They treat him very well. He's a star of the club. Like,
every player gets paid handsomely. That's not really a...
I don't think they've treated him badly now.
But not badly necessarily, but I just don't understand why there would ever be a question mark in your head about keeping him on.
I presume it's his demands of the money that
get the contract.
It's not a wise investment on a player of his age, but he seems to be a physical.
Well, he's basically won the league
for that age.
Yeah, he's basically won the league for them this year.
Yeah.
And looking at Arsenal, City, Forest have obviously had a great season, but they're not necessarily going to be title contenders over the next couple of years. Chelsea, any of those teams that are vying for the top 4, 5, 6 places. If you have Salah in your side, I think Liverpool could very easily go on a run over the next couple of seasons.
I won't put this Arsenal question to Kathleen, Shane, because we always do it as the resident supporter. However, right, it's been an exciting season. Liverpool have scored the most goals. They've conceded the second fewest. It's only Arsenal who have conceded fewer goals than Liverpool. But has it been a bit of a disappointing season? Like, Liverpool have only lost one game. That was all the way back against Nottingham Forest and Anfield. And their biggest contenders, their closest rivals this season are Arsenal, who don't have a recognised striker. The only time a team has won the Premier League without a recognised striker was Manchester City in the 2021-22 season, when they were between Sergio Aguero and Erling Haaland. You statistically and historically need a goal scorer to lift the trophy, and Arsenal simply don't have one.
Mikel Merino.
Well, I mean, genuinely, is that a viable alternative? He scores 2 against Leicester, who were going to get relegated. Yeah. So they're not Premier League level. So it doesn't mean that he's a Premier League striker.
There were 2 lovely finishes, and his, not just the finishes, but his movement for those goals was akin to someone who's regularly played centre forward. No, he's not. He's not the answer. And I do think Arsenal are going to. It's kind of a weak title race, isn't it? Unless Arsenal,
that's my question. Do you think it is?
If it is completely a weak title race, but if Arsenal come to life in the next 3 or 4 games, I'm not saying they can't, but they're going to need a run, aren't they, of 5, 6, 7 wins in a row here to actually cause Liverpool any sort of headaches.
So Liverpool have a game in hand.
Yep.
So if they lose at the weekend, Arsenal win, that puts them up to 56. If they then win their match that's in hand, that puts them up to 59 to Liverpool's 61.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit more interesting. I know there's a lot of ifs and buts there, but...
Yeah, and I know you're saying it had, Newcastle, was it Newcastle 95, 96 were the only team that to kind of capitulate from this sort of position?
Famously, from March onwards.
Yeah.
So there is time.
There is still time. But it's just the way Liverpool are playing, whatever about Arsenal, just the way Liverpool are playing, it's hard to see a title race materialise. Arteta's got headaches, but that happens in a Premier League season. You have to cope with them. coped with it very well last week and putting Marino in there and getting a couple of goals. But yeah, there are issues there with that Arsenal team that just wouldn't cry out title winners for me this season. I still think Arsenal get a win this weekend, and they'll pick up plenty of points between now and the end of the season. Just that gap, as Kathleen says, like, it is a gap of 8 points. They have the game in hand, but
10th of May, Arsenal Liverpool at Anfield. I think if you can get to that game, and there is that kind of like,
so it's what
59.
Very late in the season, that game, is it?
It's a match day 36.
Yeah.
2 games left.
It could be dust by then,
late,
do you know?
Isn't it? It's too late. Look, word on Manchester City before we move on to the next game. It's at the end of an era. Like, I'm not wholly convinced that Pep Guardiola is hanging around too much longer. I think those January signings were interesting. The fact that he's possibly building for the future, and maybe a future without him. Look, I said it at the start, and I'll say it again. They were extremely impressive against Newcastle, who didn't create a single shot on goal. That's how good Man City were at the back. But then you have the Real Madrid performance, Kathleen, and I suppose the most damning indictment of that was the following morning there wasn't very much to say about it because Real Madrid were just so far superior.
Yeah, I don't know. You said last week as well that you didn't think Guardiola was sticking around for too long. I feel like he has too much pride to leave City after...
Pride kills you though, doesn't it?
It definitely does. But after such a long run of being the best, I don't know if he's the sort that can bow out on such a low point. I think he does another season at least.
Yeah.
And he gets City back to a place where they're competing. Like, they've no Champions League now, so, there's an opportunity there to get the squad back together, focus on the league, focus on what he actually wants them to do.
Like, Pep's a fiery personality. Part of me
Rodri
thinks
comes back into the team next season.
No guarantee he's the same player as he was.
No,
it's a long absence.
I think Pep is seething at the fact that Jurgen Klopp, his arch nemesis, his rival for so many years, the top of the Premier League, left on his own terms and passed the baton over to a manager who's just picked up the mantle and ran away with it and is going to win the league this year, probably with Liverpool. Like, Pep must be thinking, gee, he just has images of Jurgen Klopp sitting on the beach or doing his bits of work here and there, and the legacy he has left. Sometimes your legacy is known when the right time to leave is. Pep has to strike that balance very, very carefully over the next year or two, whenever it is that he leaves, and as you say, not put his ego first and leave at the best time for the club.
When has Pep ever not put his ego first?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah,
okay, fair enough, but I think most top managers would be the same answer to that. Like Alex Ferguson, there was 12 years between his first retirement announcement and his eventual one. Like, that's how long he stayed on, right? For Pep Guardiola, I think it's fascinating what's going to happen because it's well documented the personal issues he's gone through this season, and he seemed a strangely contented figure in Spain the other day when they were far better than us, and I wonder, does he have the appetite to keep going? Because it's going to take an awfully long time for them to replace the great squad that he has now. Kevin De Bruyne is coming to the end. Bernardo Silva has wanted to go for a few years now. Jack Grealish hasn't worked out at the club. There's a lot of doubts there. There are a lot of doubts.
Is it more though than it's not necessarily about Pep leaving? It's him having the wherewithal and the grit to, I don't want to call them deadwood because they're still like some of the best players out there, but get rid of the players that aren't serving him anymore and doing a bit of a rebuild for that squad.
To have the motivation to do that at this point, it's so tough when you've been so successful for so long. And money talks, but it'll be tough. It feels to me like sort of the start of an end of an era for City. But then you see the likes of Marmoush coming in, you're like, this guy is really exciting, really good. So it's hard to know, but maybe he's building, as Kathleen says, a team for the next guy in charge, whoever that is.
You'd be very
Vincent
prideful
Kompany.
if you were the farewell gift, if you were Omar Mamouche.
True.
For the Pep.
Yeah.
All right, move on to our next game. What do we got? Who you got? For the next game here, I believe it's Ireland-Turkey. Tonight. Tallaght Stadium.
7:30.
Any doubts here before we get to the results? Jesus, not at all. On paper, bloody hell. For the radio listeners out there, it's Ireland all the way to the end. So we got 3-0, 3-0, 1-0, 2-0, 1-0.
No, that was a
3-1.
6-0. 6-0 is the third one there, Colm.
6-0.
That's your eyesight.
2-0, 3-1. Who's saying 1? Kathleen McNamee is saying that Turkey are going to score. Mick, clean sweep, 3-0. Nathan, 2-0. Phil, 3-0. And the other person in who you got this season, for the 24-25 season, had said 1 goal for Turkey, is also in the studio. How lovely. 4-1, you're saying, for Ireland. Shane, justify your selection.
Well, I'm saying a Turkish goal. They had that 1-1 against Ukraine in the first leg of their playoff. Ukraine a half decent team as well, in fairness. They were disappointed in the second leg, and I know there's a gulf. Is it 25th and 60th, the rankings between these two teams? You'd expect, as we all do there, clearly, Ireland to get a win in this one. Leanne Kiernan's injury is a bit of a blow, and yet, because of the start of an era, you just don't know what to expect. Like and Kathleen, you can speak more on this because you'd have been in the press conferences, but what you're hearing from Carla Ward coming in now is that it's going to be a brand new, exciting, attacking type of football. There's all the rumblings that they're going to use Katie McCabe in a more attacking position. It remains to be seen. Aggressive was the word used as well, which makes you straight away think of Katie McCabe also. But I don't know. I like this should on paper be a relatively comfortable Ireland win. Obviously, one eye will be on Slovenia away on Tuesday, but the gulf in class is there. Ireland have the experience of a major tournament quite recently as well, so I just think they'll have too much. 4-1 I've gone for.
Listen, Kathleen, we talked about this morning, the three of us as well, about League B in the Nations League, and my question to you then was, can fans expect the same here, the same result as League B, which started 18 months ago under Eileen Gleeson, that just should be a clean sweep of Ireland victories? They shouldn't be conceding a goal, let alone dropping points. Is that fair?
Yeah, like I've obviously said there that they are going to concede a goal. I think if you were looking for an aim for this, it's definitely win all the games, score the goals, clean sweep, yes, not concede anything. But also, like I also wouldn't mind if we had some closer results, but we saw some innovation with the team and some opportunities to do a few different things. Because I think this is the chance to do that. And we did see that a little bit in League B last time around with Eileen Gleeson. You know, she did play with, or toy with having Katie playing a little bit higher up. We did see the kind of innovation of that too up front, the kind of Ciara Carusa, Julianne Russell dual role, which did serve us quite well in the end whenever we did get to League A. So I think we should be looking at these games not only as a must win, try not to concede, but also what can we do with the players that are there, considering the fact we've had 3 retirements. There's a load of injuries, you know, like there's no Jasu, there's no Louise Quinn, Jamie Finn is out, Lily Agg is out with their ACLs as well. Tara Hannon as well. Well, we haven't really seen that much of her in a green jersey as of yet. She's just had such a bad run with injuries. It's just every time she gets closer and closer to getting back on the pitch, she just tweaks something again. But hopefully she is back soon, because she is one of like the most exciting players we have in with City at the moment. To be great to see her properly getting a run out.
It's not to compare them because they're both significant losses, but who do you think will immediately be the bigger departure in terms of impact on the squad? Nia Fahy or Julianne Russell?
Julianne Russell.
No doubt.
No doubt.
Not the presence that Nia Fahy will bring to the squad.
No, who's going to score goals? That's
it is seriously a massive problem, isn't it?
It's the consistent problem of Irish football in general, like men or women, is that we just don't have goal scorers. And the thing with...
we do. We have centre halves who score headers from corners. Well, that's about it.
Yeah.
We have Leanne Kiernan, Ciara Carusa, Abby Larkin, Amber Barrett, Izzy Atkinson, Lucy Quinn and Emily Murphy.
Yeah. Amber Barrett has been scoring a few goals over in the Dutch League in the last couple of weeks. I think the most...
Standard Liège, isn't he? Yeah. Standard Liège. Yeah. The
most recent one was in the Cup semi-final, I think it was, for them to get them in the final. She scored a couple of goals.
Right.
But again, you know, looking at Amber and some of the games that she played last year, she just doesn't have the speed. It's just not there. And especially with the sort of attacking forwards that we have, speed is kind of their top quality. It's that ability to get the ball, counter, or else run in behind the defence. And that's not really her style of play. And I think as well, you know, you ask about who's going to be the bigger hole. We've dealt with not having Niamh for a long time. She's had her injuries on and off, and like, yes, obviously a massive influence within the squad, and there will be that leadership gap there. But I think between the last couple of years, we've done quite well to build that defensive line, and I do think that Anna Patton and Caitlin Hayes have kind of replaced that Louise Quinn, Niamh Fahy access when it comes to our defence. Aoife Mannion as well.
I wonder, has the national team anyway gone out a bit of the public consciousness since the Wales game? So I think people will be reminded tonight we're back. And look, there's a lot of familiar names in this squad. One new name is the Charlton midfielder Melissa Phillis, who qualifies through her Mayo mother to play. Do you think that Phillis could actually have an impact in this window here? So it's tonight against Turkey and Tuesday against Slovenia. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see, does she play? I don't think she'll start. But I'm just curious to see what she actually does with this Ireland team. I haven't watched a massive amount of her with Charlton, but I've seen bits. And again, she's kind of one of those untested players, I suppose, for us at the moment. So
just before we get to the Everton-Manchester United game, under Carla Ward, can we expect a different type of football than under Eileen Gleeson and Vera Pauw?
I think we will see it at some stage. I don't think we're going to see it in this window. They've only had 2 training sessions with her. It's very hard to implement a football philosophy in 2 training sessions. And the first one was very much a getting to know the squad, getting to know the players. Like, they all met for the first time on Monday. She had called some of them were senior players and stuff on the team, and she'd gone to some games. Like, I know she went to see Everton play. Heather Payne was talking about it during the week, and she also went to some Crystal Palace games and a couple of other ones. But yeah, I think I wouldn't expect the rule book to be thrown out tonight, or the playbook probably is the better way.
All right, a new era begins. All right, on to the WTF derby. Everton against Manchester United, 14th against 15th in the Premier League. And now this is a nice old mixed baggaroo we have here. So we've gone for a draw first, that's from me, 1-1 and 0-0 if I own Sheehan there. Gerald and John are both going for Everton 2-0 and 2-1 respectively. Back to the draws here. Kathleen and Mick saying 2-2 and 1-1. Nathan and Phil going for Everton victories at home. The last Goodison game between Everton and Manchester United, 1-0 for Nathan, 2-1 for Phil, for David Moyes' side. Shane, of course, is going for a 1-2 in Manchester United's favour. And Will, top of the table, is going Everton 2.
You keep the hope alive.
Manchester
every
United
week.
1. Shane Hannon, how can you sit there? How can you sit there today, right, wearing a slightly off-white t-shirt with your arms folded and telling me to my face that Manchester United are going to win a game of football, let alone against Everton, let alone against David Moyes, let alone against a side who are unbeaten in 5. They've won 4. The one that they drew was a last-minute draw against Liverpool in the Merseyside derby. How can you say that to me?
See, okay, my standpoint on this is, and Mick criticised me on who he got quite recently, saying, of course Shane went for United. If you look back at my record this season,
the voice is raised.
I went against Manchester United multiple times and paid handsomely for it, because United lost a lot of games. But the last time I went against the grain column, where I was the only person who predicted a United win, was the game against Fulham. You remember a number of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, where United. You
were castigated for that.
I was castigated. I was castigated for that decision. Ultimately, United win, and I'm the only one to pick up the points for said win. Now, I'm kind of using that similar logic for this game at Goodison this weekend. There's a lot of emotion with Everton, obviously leaving Goodison Park. It's an early Saturday kickoff. It's going to be a brilliant atmosphere. Still on the little bit of the high from the Merseyside derby, you'd imagine, and the absolutely crazy scenes towards the end. The win over Palace was really impressive. David Moyes will love to get one over Manchester United. I see all of the arguments for an Everton win. And then you look at the United injury list. To have Amad Diallo out, Lisandro Martinez, all these guys. The slump has to potentially... the slump has to end at some point. Maybe it will be next season.
Why does it have to end? What's going to tell? How is it going to end?
I think a lot of United fans are putting a lot of faith in Ruben Amorim as a football manager. He did say it's going to get worse before it gets better.
He said it
in fairness, and it has got a lot worse before it's going to get better. United being away from home, ironically, helped me go for them, because if this game was at Old Trafford, I'd be going for Everton. I just think away from home, for whatever reason, United seem to put in a better performance. There's Chido Obi-Martin, the young Danish guy as well, 17 years of age, really exciting. And when you look at the bench this weekend, it's going to be a very young bench once again. But I'd like to see some of those young lads get an opportunity. Everton all of a sudden are ahead of United in the table as well, which a few weeks ago you wouldn't have thought possible. So yeah. It's just a game. I'm going against the grain. I'm doing the Ger Gilroy move and up to the other tires.
Look, Kathleen, I'm going to get to you in a second about David Moyes and its impact on everything. But just one last one on Manchester United for now, Shane. Ruben Amorim has won 4 Premier League games. One of those is actually against Everton at Old Trafford. 4-0. That was in the dying days of the Sean Dyche era. And even after that game, Amorim was quite critical of United's performance. The Manchester derby was an amazing day out at the Etihad, with Amad Diallo scores a brace, and now he's out for the rest of the season. They had the Fulham game, like you mentioned, at Craven Cottage, and then the sole victory elsewhere was at home to Southampton, who were one of the worst sides in Premier League history, where they were 1-0 down for a good portion of that game. Whatever you say about the quality of Manchester United's squad, and it's very debatable that there is any beyond one or two players. Yeah. But if your manager is consistently telling the media just how terrible you are, you know what? You might start believing it.
Do you want him to lie though? Because they clearly are not up to standard.
I want him to get the best out of what he's got, and he is going out of his way, in my eyes, to tell the media we haven't a hope.
Well, I think those comments were quite pointed towards people like Marcus Rashford, for example, who is now off the books on loan at Villa. Anthony, for example.
But Rashford's gone and Anthony's gone, and after the Spurs game last weekend, he said, my job is really, really hard. Right down the lens.
Yeah, look, there's a bit of bad luck in there when you have Ahmad getting injured for the season. I mean, that your best player this season it's quite unlucky. Like Ruben Amorim, yes, he criticises the players openly, but a lot of the things he says you have to agree with. Like, in fairness, including that one. Like, I actually don't think these are adults, professionals who are well compensated for what they do.
What age you are, you can be mentally impacted by anything at any point.
No,
in your life.
Of course you can be mentally, but like, you like, and none of us can be in that position where so publicly we're castigated by our boss as being told that we aren't doing a good enough job. But it's quite clear. And these professional footballers are pampered, and for too long at Old Trafford, they've been let do what they've thrown every manager under the bus.
Yeah,
and Amorim is not going to take that.
Look, Kathleen, I thought when Ralph Rangnick...
I was just enjoying sitting back and listening to two United supporters have an emotional crisis.
Well, I think it's beyond United fandom. It's more of a fascination of this weird project that we're seeing
it's
in
insidious
front of our
look
eyes.
at what's going on.
100%.
Yeah.
Like when Ralph Rangnick diagnosed the club needing open heart surgery in spring 2022, he was at the time castigated because of the position he was in, which is in charge of these players, but it was incredibly accurate. Ruben Amorim would make an unbelievable pundit at the moment, but a manager of these players, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, he does seem to like to talk a lot more than we've seen any action on the pitch from. But again, and I've said this so many different weeks on here, I do think he needs time. I do think he needs the opportunity to get rid of the players a la Rashford that he doesn't want in that squad, given a bit of money in a transfer window to bring some players in that do play the style of football he wants, that do bring the attitude that he wants. Like, how many times have you sat along this table, Colm, and given off about the attitude of some of these players? Like, it's Rangnick was right. Like, United is very clearly not just a team but a club that needs open heart surgery. There needs to be some sort of radical change. Amorim is making a lot of noise at the moment. I think only time will tell if maybe that was a good distraction tactic in the long term, and he is actually behind the scenes doing something, scouting some players, building something that we just can't see at the moment. But like, you look at like when Arteta came in and all the doubts that were around him, and he was very vocal about the players in his squad not performing well at the time, and everyone was a bit like, don't really know if you should be doing that before you've actually proven yourself. And okay, admittedly, I think he potentially has reached a bit of a ceiling with Arsenal in that they just can't seem to get over that hump and striker issue, and we'll talk about that a little bit later because Arsenal's our final game. But give him time is kind of the thing I would say with United. Like, I have the utmost doubt that
I thought I was going to say respect.
No, that Ratcliffe and Ineos is the answer to United's woes at the moment. But again, if you give Amorim a big enough purse, I think he could do something with that United squad.
Well, look, a lot of people were comparing the situation to Jurgen Klopp's first season in Liverpool when there was a lot of problems there, but I think the progress is a bit faster then.
But he just needs to survive long enough to get that purse. Like, the results have been that bad that if they continue,
they're losing money. The club's losing.
Yeah, well,
money.
this is it. But if they lose tomorrow to Everton and if they lose the next 3 or 4 games, then he might not get the chance. And we know he's a man with a brilliant football brain. We saw what he did with Sporting Lisbon, but he needs to get that window in. But he needs to buy himself time in order to do that.
Did you get rid of him?
I know I wouldn't get rid of it.
Absolutely not.
United have been such a sacking club over it. Like, how many managers
it's just crazy that he took the job. I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
Taking it, especially that time of the season. But
he must see something that the rest of us can't see.
It's a write-off. I'm genuinely not being funny. They won't get relegated.
No, they're 12 points ahead of that.
There's 3 worse teams than them.
Yeah.
The 3 promoted sides, which saves them. Like,
yeah,
they're very lucky. But like, look, the open heart diagnosis was 3 years ago, and they still haven't got the operation.
Well, it's true.
Is it on the waiting list?
He's the surgeon, but do they just bin the league? Now the league, it's the motivation.
Yeah, no,
it's done.
It's done. It's done.
So
the season's done.
But what I would say to that, the FA Cup, whatever they've got Fulham in the FA Cup,
Premier League season is done.
But the Premier League season, but the Europa League is going to become so important for them now because if they win that, you have an avenue into the Champions League. Whatever they can do in the Champions League next season, not sure.
If they don't get European football next season, they're in serious. Even more serious bother.
Yeah.
Look, we got to move on. Just one last. I did say go to you about David Moyes, Kathleen. It was like when he got reappointed, I was thinking, never go back. What are you doing? But it seems like
I was the ultimate doubter.
Yeah, it seems like his reputation kind of was going in a bit enhanced because of what happened with West Ham subsequently to his departure. But you were a doubter.
Oh, totally. But like you were saying there, I was like, never go back. You have your reputation within Everton. Why tarnish what? Like, I think most Everton fans, even though it didn't end the best when he eventually did leave, it just in terms of like where the football was rather than the relationship. They have a fairly respectful view of David Moyes, and I was like, you're going to go back. This isn't going to go well. If Dyche, can't do it, why would David Moyes be able to turn this team around? And I fully hold my hands up. I was wrong. Like, I remember the day. It was maybe the day before he was appointed and all the rumours started that he was going to get it, and looking at some of the fan sites and like Liverpool newspapers and stuff, and they had polls up being, do you want David Moyes to come back as Everton manager? And it was like a resounding no from the fans as well. So I think there was very much a similar feeling, but he's proven us all wrong. Like, is it a new manager bounce? Is this something that will serve them well until the end of the season?
I think he has a bit of an aura, lads, all of a sudden. I think he's going in with this relaxed demeanour, being like, I have nothing to prove.
You saw him in the overlap. Like, you see him in media and stuff as well. There is
definitely,
not an arrogance, but it's a confidence in now what he does.
The last time Everton were ahead of Manchester United in the table this late in the season, who was in charge of Manchester United? David Moyes.
Right, okay.
All right, we move on to our last game, the London Derby. Arsenal against West Ham. Oh, West Ham is not looking good. Nathan says it's going to be a draw, 2-2. Everyone else is saying the Gooners. Various scorelines there, 1-0, 2-0, 3-1, 1-0, and so on. It's all fairly comfortable looking there, with the exception of John, who was a narrow Arsenal victory. Probably Arsenal and John are relying on the fact that one can't see goals, one aren't scoring goals.
You and John have the exact same prediction, 1-0.
Yeah, I'm discounting myself as a participant this week on the presenter. Look, the thing about Arsenal is, as much as we kind of maligned them, and they have been actually heavily criticised this season, at the same time, they're on their best unbeaten run since the 2010-11 season right now. So, funnily enough, on paper, if you hadn't seen Arsenal this season, we're just looking at their results, you'd be like, that's pretty good. The stability is there under Mikel Arteta. They're consistently challenging Champions League, flirting with the Premier League title, whatever, making the move. That's kind of Arsenal's level.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at the table earlier when we were talking about Liverpool and City, and I kind of forgot that Arsenal had only lost 2 games all season. It doesn't feel like that. I think because Liverpool are so far ahead, and Arsenal have been so focused on City for the last couple of seasons, and reaching City and trying to beat City and getting close to City and then falling off towards the end of the season. That
and some draws thrown in there that should have been wins, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that this season there's just been like resounding disappointment that City aren't part of the picture, and instead of like actually going toe to toe with Liverpool, they've just totally fallen away. If anything, it's been a worse season in that regard because Liverpool are so far ahead. Like, City haven't been this far ahead of Arsenal the last couple of seasons when it has been that 1, 2, 3 say between them. But yeah, like, even I remember when the Kai Havertz injury happened recently, and everyone was like, sorry, like, just lost another player.
Yeah.
Sorry for your
Did
loss.
not take a fizz out of me.
Really?
Yeah, because it's not like when we lost Saka.
He couldn't hit
and
the
you're
net,
like
Kai Havertz.
that.
No,
Yeah.
he does score goals.
Well, yeah.
He does score goals, but he's not.
He misses
like,
a lot of skilled edge chances too.
Yeah.
Who else is scoring for him?
But that's what I mean. Like,
Nico
when you lose a player like Saka, you're losing a playmaker, a goal scorer, someone who makes things happen on the pitch.
Yeah.
You lose Odegaard, you're losing the crux of your midfield. you lose Havertz and you're like, it's unfortunate, but I'm not devastated.
I get you. Yeah. Look, the theme of our discussion has kind of been rebuilds, right? So we started with Pep Guardiola and the question of whether he's going to stay around to actually have a new generation of a great Manchester City squad. Certainly Ruben Amorim, what's going to happen there? Can he build something? But I would argue, outside of Liverpool, like Arsenal are in the best position at the moment, because if Arsenal finish out this season, Mikel Arteta is still in charge. There's no reason he wouldn't be. If they just get that goal scorer. Now, every club in world football is looking for a goal scorer. They're extremely hard to find.
No,
if they get that.
How long have we been
Kathleen,
saying about?
they have a really, really strong squad otherwise. It's just up front. That's all they're really missing.
I know, but that's what we've been saying for the last 3 seasons, is they're just missing that upfront player. And yes, Arsenal should be a really attractive prospect for any intelligent striker out there, but they're not. Because otherwise they would have attracted the likes of Isak. They would have signed someone who can get them goals, but there doesn't seem to be.
Well, the Ollie Watkins one was that
what were they thinking, Shane? Bidding so late in the January window, thinking, would they actually sell this guy to us?
Especially when Villa have the exciting Champions League run and stuff. Maybe he'd go in the summer. I don't know what the story might be there, but
it just doesn't feel like there's a plan. It's kind of like.
Do you? I think it's the opposite. I just think he has this weird shortcoming when it comes to strikers, but otherwise I think it's a really well run team. And that sounds like damning with faint praise, but they're really consistent.
No, but that's what I mean specifically about the strikers. But saying he has a shortcoming with strikers, that's so damning. You have your stat about never winning the Premier League apart from the City team without a out-and-out striker.
Yeah. It's glaring.
What's he gonna do? We've been asking him for seasons, and it almost feels like fans or whoever it is online start suggesting players, and Arsenal suddenly go, a bit like the Ollie Watkins thing, just being like, oh, okay, we'll try that one, we'll go for that one, but it's always late, it never pulls through. What's the plan?
By the way, we have some Champions League 16 draw news to bring you as well, which has worked out nicely time-wise. So Aston Villa will play Club Brugge in the last 16 of the Champions League.
Club Brugge.
Borussia Dortmund versus Lille. Real Madrid against Atletico Madrid.
Nice.
Bayern Munich against Bayer Leverkusen.
Nice.
So a lot of, I guess,
first versus second in the Bundesliga.
Yeah. Arsenal will play PSV Eindhoven. Feyenoord versus Inter Milan. PSG against Liverpool.
Oh, lovely.
Benfica versus Barcelona, rounding it out. And then if Liverpool were to get past PSG, they will, in the quarterfinal, play either Club Brugge or Aston Villa. So it could be a Liverpoolist Aston Villa quarterfinal. And if Arsenal progress past PSV, they'll play the winner of Real Atletico in the quarterfinal. So it could be Arsenal, Real Madrid in the quarterfinal.
I don't mind an all Premier League quarterfinal in the Champions League. I was saying last time Liverpool won the Premier League at the Etihad was nearly 10 years ago. They beat them in the Champions League there in the knockout stage. So that'll be interesting. On this game, last season, Arsenal West Ham won 2-0 at the end. This was the Christmas time capitulation against Fulham and West Ham. And the reverse fixture this season at the London Stadium.
Thrashing, wasn't it?
It was a record scoreline half time in the Premier League. It was 5-2 to Arsenal. And disappointingly then finished 5-2. Would have been another record. Lucas Paqueta is out for a month for West Ham. I know you've gone for Arsenal yourself, Shane. Any hope at all of an away surprise here under Graham Potter, who had a good record with Brighton at Arsenal, but not so with Chelsea?
No. They had a nice long break before that Brentford match, a 12-day break, which ordinarily you would think that's a really good thing for a team to have. They get the training sessions in and put a bit of a plan in place, but it didn't work for the Brentford game. And you're not seeing enough from West Ham to cause Arsenal any issues whatsoever. Graham Potter looks like a man. He's not a man under pressure. You look at the Premier League table and they will be safe absolutely this season, and you'd imagine Potter will then be in charge again next season. They won't be under any severe threat. But there's nothing. No, there's nothing from West Ham. Famous last words. But Nathan Murphy's the only one out of us who's gone for something a little bit different in the draw. Did he say 2-2 draw for this one? But no, it's going to be an Arsenal win.
We've live commentary on Sunday, a doubleheader in the Premier League as per usual. The main event, 4:30pm kickoff at the Etihad, Manchester City against Liverpool with Stephen Doyle and Brian Kerr, and the appetizer is a juicy one at 2pm at St James's Park, Newcastle United against Nottingham Forest with the aforementioned Nathan Murphy alongside Keith Tracy. What a pleasure that was. Who you got? I got a great show with Shane and Kathleen. Have a great weekend.
Football on Off the Ball
with William Hill.